In this video, we're going to complete the first page of the KutaSoftware Infinite Algebra 1 free worksheet, Writing in Scientific Notation. Our directions for this first part are to write each number in scientific notation. Scientific notation is where you have a number in the ones place, and then you may have a decimal with some numbers after, or you may not. But you have a number in the ones place that is greater than or equal to 1, and it's less than 10. So that's going to be either 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. And then it's going to be multiplied by 10 to some exponent. Now, think about if your exponent is negative. Let's look at 10 to the negative 2. We can write that as 1 over 10 squared, which is 1 over 100, which in turn would be 0.01. So we can see that a negative number will be associated with a smaller valued number, whereas a positive number, let's say 10 squared, that's going to be equal to 100. So positive exponents are going to be associated with the larger numbers, and negative exponents will be associated with the smaller decimals. So let's take a look at number 1. Now remember, we need our number in the ones place. So we're going to have to move the decimal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times in order to get that 6 as a whole number. So that's going to be 6 times 10, and we move the decimal place to the right, essentially increasing that value, but it was a very small decimal, so as opposed to writing 6 times 10 to the 6th, since we moved it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, it's going to be 6 times 10 to the negative 6. So when we move the decimal place to the right, we're going to be multiplying by 10 to some negative exponent. Looking at number 2, remember we only want one value in our ones place. So taking the decimal, we're going to need to move it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times to the left. So that will be 5.4 times 10 to, now remember we moved it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. However, that was to the left. So we shrunk the number when we wrote it as 5.4, so we're going to be multiplying by 10 to the positive 6. So moving the decimal place to the left, we will be multiplying with a positive exponent. And number 3, we're going to have our decimal place, and we're going to be moving it only once. So this will be 6 times 10, and we moved it once to the left, so that's a positive 1. 6 times 10 to the first. We want the 9 as a ones place, so we're going to move the decimal 1, 2, 3 times to the right, so this will be 9 times 10 to the negative 3. Since we moved the decimal place to right, that's going to be a negative exponent when dealing with rewriting a number in scientific notation. And number 5, we already have one digit in the ones place, so we will just rewrite this as 6.7, and we're going to multiply that by 10 to the 0, which is essentially multiplying it by 1. So 6.7 times 10 to the 0, since we did not move the decimal place. In number 6, we're going to have to move the decimal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times to the right, so this will be 2 times 10 to the negative 7th. In number 7, we're going to be moving our decimal place to the left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, so that we have a positive 2, and we're going to be multiplying that by 10 to the 6th for scientific notation. In number 8, we have 71 times 10 to the 3rd. However, 71, we need to move the decimal place over once, and that's to the left. So this will be 7.1 times 10 to the 1st, but then we're still multiplying that by 10 to the 3rd. So adding our exponents together, because remembering our product rule under our exponent laws, we're going to have 7.1 times 10 to the 1 plus 3, which is equal to 7.1 times 10 to the positive 4. And number 9, we're going to be moving our decimal place 1, 2, 3, 4 times to the left in order for there to be only one digit in the ones place. So that's going to be 4.89. And we drop our placeholder zeros. So 4.89 times 10 to the 4th. And number 10, we'll be moving the decimal place 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times to the right. So this will be 9 times 10 to the negative 7th. For number 11, we have 0.63 times 10 to the first. And even though this looks like scientific notation since it's multiplied by 10 to some exponent, it's not. We need to move this decimal place over once in order to get the 6 in the ones place. So we'll have 6.3 times 10, and we moved it over to the right, so this will be times 10 to the negative 1, but we still have to multiply that by 10 to the positive 1. So we'll have 6.3 times 10 to the negative 1 plus positive 1, since we're adding those exponents. So that's 6.3 times 10 to the 0. And number 12, we have 33 times 10 to the negative third. So I'm going to do this one a little bit differently. I'm going to work out this multiplication at the start. So we'll have 33 times 10 to the negative 3. So that's going to be 33, but we're going to be moving the decimal place over 3 times. So 1, 2, 3, and that's 3 times to the left, because when we multiply 33 by some fraction, because this number is 1 over 10 to the third, this number is getting smaller. So now we just need to rewrite 0.033 in scientific notation. And we're going to need to move the decimal place 2 times to the right. So this will be 3.3 times 10 to the negative 2. So again, when we multiplied this out, times 10 to the negative 3, we know that's a decimal. So 33 was worked out in decimal form, and then we rewrote that decimal in scientific notation. For number 13, we're going to be moving the decimal place 1, 2, 3, 4 times to the right, so that we have just the 2 in the ones place. So that'll be 2.16 times 10, and then again it was 1, 2, 3, 4 times, so 10 to the negative 4th. And number 14, we're moving the decimal place 1, 2, 3 times to the right. So 4.2 times 10 to the negative 3. And number 15, I'll go ahead and write 0.15 in scientific notation and then add my exponents. So moving the decimal place over once, I'll have 1.5 times 10 to the negative 1, and I'm multiplying that by 10 to the negative 2. So that's 1.5 times 10 to the negative 1 plus negative 2, which will give me 1.5 times 10 to the negative 3. And lastly, on this first page, number 16. If you haven't already, go ahead, subscribe to my channel, and while you're at it, like this video. And number 16, we have 4.8. 4.8 already has only one single digit in the ones place. So I'm just going to write this as 4.8, and I didn't move the decimal, so I'll multiply that by 10 to the 0, which 10 to the 0 is 1. 4.8 times 10 to the 0 is 4.8 in scientific notation. Join me in the next video where I'll finish the worksheet completing the second page, which is numbers 17 through 32. And, as always, like, subscribe, and share.